Alright, so we got the spoilers for chapter 363, and this is like a really jam-packed chapter. And we're finding out what happened with Bakugo, or at least we're getting confirmation on what's going on with him, at least for now. But let's just get into it. The chapter begins with Monoma thinking back to Bakugo's fighting during the joint training, when he said he wanted a perfect win. He can't believe what he's seeing. He screams that it can't be true. Zhoniin is next to Bakugo and confirms he has no pulse. So, yeah, Bakugo's dead, as we expected. He has no pulse. In the previous chapter, Shigaraki / All for One pretty much stabbed him in the heart. There was like two different panels of it, like one of it happening and like one of his heart being pierced. And the chapter ended on him looking pretty dead. And Best Jeanist of all people here is confirming that he has no pulse. But the fact that it's being talked about here the way that it is makes me think that like he's probably coming back, right? Because the way that it's worded, like he has no pulse, meaning that like, you know, there's a chance that he could regain it. Because, you know, like whenever shows kind of like phrase things this way, or whenever there's emphasis put on the pulse, it usually kind of circles back to, oh, there's a chance for it to come back, right? Maybe this is just me like high on hopium at this point, but like I really do think that this is actually giving us legitimate hope, not just hopium, that Bakugo is probably going to come back some way or another. I speculated about it in the Q&A video on Sunday that Best Jeanist could, like, I don't know, reconfigure like the muscle fibers or the collagen fibers in Bakugo's heart and bring him back that way, possibly, along with the assistance of Kaminari, like shock him back to life if necessary, of course. Or he's just dead and I just have to accept it. Or I guess we all just have to accept it. Mirio remembers when he said they would protect everyone until Deku arrives there. He's extremely frustrated. Komuro All for One says that now he's dead for good. He taunts Eraser, saying he gave his student too much credit and stood on the backseat. That's why he's disappointed on him. So that also right there makes me feel like he's probably coming back too, because that dialogue right there is maybe hammering it on the head a little too much, you know what I mean? Like, Bakugo can't just be dead and then Tomura can just get away with saying that. At least not in this series. Tomura All for One asks who wants to be Midoriya's new president, and we see he's grabbed Mirko. She says she should have killed him way back at the lab, but she's not depressed. Quite the contrary. She's angry and biting off Tomura's fingers. It cuts back to Kamino, and we see Dabi still alive and kicking. He risked it all at the last second and tried copying Shoto's new technique. As a result, he has resisted it and is now burning Kido and Onima. They're seriously injured. Burnin tells Shoto to run. He has that X-Fire effect on his chest too. So yeah, we're finally going back to what had happened with Dabi and Shoto. This is going all the way back to like chapter 353, I think, because Shoto had defeated Dabi in chapter 352, but then in 353 we kind of saw Dabi having that like light in his chest start to emit suddenly, and that led us to have many theories and many speculations about what was going on with him for the following months. And it's not as fantastical as a lot of us thought, and to be honest, I'm really glad, because I didn't want Dabi to have some kind of like quirk awakening where he was going to get some kind of ice quirk or something. But him copying Shoto's technique here, I assume he's referring to the Flash Fire Fist, since Rukasu says that he has the X fire effect on his chest too. Shoto says he underestimated Toya, thinking he had only raw strength. He has polished his quirk by himself for all these years, so he has a very polished control over his power. Dabi shouts, "Skeptic!" and a voice starts coming from a device at that giant Nomu's back. Skeptic calls Toya a daddy's boy and says he's too busy to respond. But if he's asking about Endeavor's location, he's fighting All for One on Gunga Mountain. We see Tomura All for One again, and he says that they shouldn't have given the villains time to prepare. They should have rushed like Deku wanted. So I guess that's where it's starting and ending for us coming back to what's going on with Shoto and Dabi. Skeptic is controlling a satellite and keeping track of everyone's location. He's apparently communicating directly to many of the villains too. While many other companies were leaving Japan, he was dedicating himself to spreading Redestro's words. The communication in the command room where All Might is at has been hacked by Skeptic. That's why Mandalay hasn't been able to hear from Deku. The last thing we see from his is that he has an inside map of all the escape routes beneath UA, and he started moving something. Okay, so that's super interesting. Skeptic has infiltrated where All Might is in that control room right now, and there's like other people with him too. I won't go too much into the possibilities of the other people that are with him because I'm kind of just waiting for that to blossom in a way that I think it may. We see a glimpse of the shelters where the civilians are. The Todoroki family is watching as Mazagaki teacher tells her students to behave, but they are sure 5-man Bakugo and the rest will win. But All For One spies are there too, holding their phones. The last spread takes us back to Gunga. All For One says he heard that at the last war the villains were taken by surprise, but not this time. Now they are the one attacking and the heroes have to defend themselves. They're one step closer to their dream, and we see his face. He doesn't have freckles, for the love of God. So yeah, for the most part, we are seeing All For One's face here at the end of the chapter. I guess this means that Yujiko has made some kind of variant of Eri's quirk, I guess, like derived from the quirk destroying bullets that he was supplied with by Tomura. I talked about this last week actually because we kind of got like this little spoiler promotional art from Horikoshi with All For One, you know, seemingly fully regenerated back to his prime form facing off against Izuku. And yeah, it totally turns out that that is going to happen for sure because we see him here. He's no longer Potato Face. He's coming back to normal, and while he's not like 100% fully back, there's still like some Eri magic covering like the left part of his face, but for the most part he is fully back here and he looks pretty much like what we expected. Like, for the most part, we see what he fully looks like. It's just, you know, some shadows obscuring like his eyes or whatever. But now we just don't have the shadows there, and it's, you know, there's not much left to the imagination, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, he doesn't have any freckles here. Rukasu is referencing a possible relation to Izuku, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not related to Izuku because he doesn't have freckles. And I'm also saying that it doesn't mean that he is. I'm not like 100% married to the whole thing about All For One being Izuku's father. I just simply think it would make the story more interesting. To be honest, he looks kind of like Endeavor, if anything, but I'll go more into this in my video on Friday. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you think about these spoilers in the comments. What do you think about Dabi's comeback here and All For One's face? If you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.